Hi, I'm Alison Heath, the longevity rescuer and the host of the EMF Summit. I believe that you have a right to know. You have a right to be aware of the things that you're being subjected to that are harming your health and the health of your family. And yet, the more I dig into this, the more I learn that there's collusion going on. There's a concentrated effort by a very, very powerful lobby group. In fact, they have more money than Big Tobacco had in its heyday, or than Big Pharma has. This is the communication industry. And there have been people who are speaking out, and they are being silenced. They're losing their funding. They're being put onto Quackwatch, etc. It's completely inconceivable at the concentrated effort to discredit these professionals, kind, gentle, knowledgeable people that have a concern for your family's health. I would like to take a moment just to acknowledge some of these people and invite you to join me and listen to them firsthand and find out what they have to say, and then you can make up your own mind. Here's a quote by
Ole Johansson.
He says, "As you know, the very first studies of EHS persons, these are people with electromagnetic hypersensitivity, focused on their skin problems, and I was able to publish a series of papers about them. Unfortunately, my papers caused a big stir since they did not underpin the idea that EHS persons only were victims of mass media-driven psychoses, delusional menopausing women, illiterate men and women, or persons imagining their problems, but rather showed
Classical cayotination radiation damages."
He's currently in the process of having his funding cut incredibly and being labeled as a bad scientist by the institute where he works. So many of the people experiencing illness caused their classical symptoms of microwave sickness. They're being labeled as having psychosomatic illnesses, and they're being pushed away by their physicians who don't necessarily know that much about it. Ole has done a great deal of work and studies on electromagnetic radiation and its effect on people. He has been incredibly persecuted. Henry Lai is another scientist working in Washington State University. He had his funding cut completely because he did a study using the same frequency of radiation that cell phones have. When we put the cell phone to our ear, we're getting that same radiation going into us as the studies that he did in his scientific lab. So he was using that same radiation level, and what he found was that there were breaks in the DNA. You know, the DNA has like two-stranded helix that goes up like that. There was not only a break in one strand, but also there could be a break in two strands. Now, if there's a break in one strand, that can be repaired. But a break in two strands, that causes damaged DNA to be passed on to the next generation. So this is going down through the generations. This damaged DNA will continue to get passed down. Well, he published his study, and he did not mention the cell phone industry. He did not mention cell phones. He made no mention whatsoever. He was just talking about that frequency of radiation. Well, they cut his funding for his lab. Motorola tried to have him fired. This is really a blatant case of persecution going on for scientists, and there are many, many more that I could list. They're doing research, and they're trying to let people know. There are physicians like Dr. Dietrich Klinghardt. He is working with children with the full autism spectrum, and people are coming to him after they've seen 20 or 30 doctors, and they can't find out what's wrong with them. He is helping them clean up the dirty electricity, reduce their exposure to EMF radiation, and he's speaking out and being put onto Quackwatch. Dr. Magda Havis, she's another person that I will be interviewing on the EMF Summit. She's doing research showing how the blood changes in people when they're exposed to EMF radiation, when they're in a room with wireless devices and so on, like their computers. She's showing in her lab what happens to their blood and how it just stacks up and does something called the rouleau effect. So she's now on Quackwatch. Dr. Samuel Milham, he's an epidemiologist, highly respected, that I interviewed. He's been working for the last 50 years. He tried to get information out to the industry and was completely ignored. This is going on, and Sharon Noble, who's a very concerned grandmother, and she is one of the people that founded Stop Smart Meters BC. What's happened with her is that she started doing research and she kept getting in contact with Health Canada and they kept giving her back information. One of the experts that they were citing was Dr. Mary McBride. So she's somebody that they bring out. Well, she investigated this, and this woman does not have a degree does not have a doctorate. She is not a doctor. And yet when she exposed this on national TV, Mary McBride said, oh, well, it was a typo. And yet this typo appears on numerous documents. And she's one of the people that is cited as an expert for Health Canada. I'm beginning to wonder what's going on. What is it going to take for us to wake up and realize that there is a level of collusion going on that's similar to big tobacco, to the asbestos industry, to the use of DDT. This has been going on for a long time. As long as there's money to be made, there's corruption. We're putting wireless in our schools. And Barry Trower, one of the other experts that I'm going to be interviewing for the EMF Summit, he's had 3 death threats. He's a microwave weapons expert, and he's come out of retirement because he's appalled that we're putting wireless in the schools and giving these children laptops. This is creating a fertility problem that can have very serious consequences down the road. I encourage you strongly to join me on the EMF Summit, to find out more information, to listen to these experts, learn what they have to say, and really take action. Protect yourself so that you can safely use the technology that's available today. You can protect yourself and your family because, you know, young children, the infirm, and elderly people are the most susceptible. So please join me, learn more, and don't let the industry, corporate lobbyists control what information you have. Knowledge precedes action. And with that, I wish you the best year yet.